Let justice roll on like a river, and righteousness like a never-failing stream. Those words from Amos are oft repeated by politicians and preachers and speakers. And the current moment that we're living in, as people spill into the streets, as we see this outpouring of righteous anger in the face of the persistent racism in this country, in the face of police brutality and policing that is unjust. These words are taking on real life significance on a scale that many people have really not seen in their lifetimes. It's one thing to plan a march. It's another thing for something like this to break out spontaneously, for this level of emotion to spill forth in this way and on a global scale. It really drives home the principle that with the Holy Spirit, you can't dam up progress. There are no structures in politics and in the relationships amongst the powerful that can try to hold back change when that change is so needed, when so many hearts are crying out for that change, when the pain is so deep and the trauma and the yearning to finally be able to heal and to obtain dignity for everyone, that spirit cannot be dammed up. And I think this is indicative of a lot with how our country is and how the world is right now, that there are many levers of power that are being kind of propped up to try to safeguard against any sort of forward motion. And I think this moment is showing us that that's not possible. It also is reflecting to us what Isaac has said about the church being non-essential, that this outpouring didn't come from within the church. It has come from everywhere, and that can include the church. But the question for us then is seeing a dam starting to crack up and these waters starting to roll on in this unstoppable way. It's not a question of were we the ones to break that dam? Can we take credit for that? No. But can we add our own spirit to that mighty rolling river that is rolling on towards justice? Because I know so many of us have that desire in our hearts and have been holding it, and at times the fire of that desire for there to be reconciliation in our world has felt almost too hot to handle, to put that awkwardly, but has the burden of that, keeping that inside, has been painful experience. We now have an opportunity to join into this river of change that is now finally starting to pour out from this shared spirit that we have, that wants us to really know what it means to love each other as a human family and all that entails. But what I'm sensing from people, from conversations I'm having and just from what I'm seeing, is this feeling of, well, there's so much going on. I don't know how to contribute. I don't know how to focus my resolve to be able to add to this, because at this point, all of us are on tons of mailing lists, and we scroll through our social media and people are posting things, and it can start to feel overwhelming. But one way that we can focus our resolve is as a community. And I've talked a lot about the importance of focusing our attention and being responsible for what we pay attention to, because when you pay attention to something, it grows. And a lot of the times our attention is focused on, the news or these broader channels of information that sometimes these days we don't know what's real anymore, or we're wondering why we're taking our cues for our opinions from random pundits who really, in the case of Black Lives Matter and anti-racism, very rarely know what they're talking about because they haven't made an effort to engage with those ideas at all. But in Charlottesville in particular, we have a vibrant and very dynamic community of anti-racists who have been putting in the work, especially given the traumatic events that occurred here several years ago. In some ways, the activists in our community organizing against racism, organizing towards liberation, are a couple steps ahead of many other places. So the challenge then for us, Wesley, I think to begin with, is to earnestly engage with the actual policy demands and the ideas that these activists in our community are promoting. And it's not just a hashtag and what the sort of associations from that rallying cry give you and what emotions they bring up. It takes some work to actually engage. What does defund the police mean? What does abolition mean? It might not be what you think it means. You might find stuff in there that's really, really thought-provoking and really compelling and that you agree with. And that's part of what's being asked of us as a community. And I think the other part is paying attention to what the leaders in our community are asking of us, because they are taking leadership. They've done their research. They know what the stakes are. Their communities are the ones that are closest to the pain. And so we can learn so much just by listening to them and engaging with them. So at Wesley, I'm going to, with some others, be trying to pull some of those resources together to make it easier to find them. So for instance, under this video, there's some companion reading. One is a letter from Black Lives Matter Charlottesville to people who are newly interested in being anti-racist. And I recommend reading that. I've included some links also talking about what some of these policy demands actually are. We need to be fluent in the vocabulary and understand what the ideas actually are in order to engage with them. And so I will be pulling together some of those resources in a manageable way, and also when there's a call to action, putting it forward in a way that's easy to respond to and doesn't feel like just another thing that's crowding my email list. But hopefully if we can commit to taking some of these actions together as a community, it doesn't feel like I'm just this tiny little drop of water in a giant bucket, which is important, by the way, but it might feel like a cup of water being poured into a bucket, or, to go back to the initial imagery I was using, a stream feeding into this river. And I'm hoping that these practices together can make us feel like we are contributing, and that it does matter, and that our Christian faith is being expressed and is equal to this moment that we're living through. So I also invite you to send my way if you see stuff happening in our community, or messages or information that's specific to what's going on in Charlottesville. Please send it my way so that I can then share it with others. Also in this I'm just going to stop there. It's long enough. So I hope that you're able to move forward this week with new resolve and energy, and knowing that we are in this together and that we add to this struggle together. Please go forth with peace and with the fire of the Holy Spirit to guide you.